I don't want to take care of Grandma. I don't even want to see her. Why don't you do it? Anna, said my sister-in-law with a malicious smile. She probably thought that if I took care of Grandma, she wouldn't have to worry about anything anymore. My brother was next to her, smiling. He looked at me and then turned to look at Grandma. It was clear that in such a tense and hostile environment, Grandma wouldn't find peace. It's okay, Grandma. I'm here for you, I said confidently. My name is Betty, and I just turned 55. Life has become more peaceful for me, and now I enjoy it with my husband, Scott. Our 3 children are grown up and are pursuing their own dreams. Those days when I had to balance work and family when they were little feel like a distant but sweet memory. Nowadays, my life is simple. I focus on my work, spend time with Scott, and make sure Grandma feels loved and well cared for. My husband and I have a traditional restaurant that is well known in our city. I take care of the business side, while Scott, who is an incredible chef, takes care of the kitchen. It's a good partnership, and it works wonders for us. I chose this path because I studied business in college, and I was fascinated by restaurant management. At first, I thought I wanted to cook for our customers, but life had other plans. While in college, I accepted a job in the kitchen of a luxury hotel near campus. However, I quickly realized that cooking wasn't my thing. A coworker who was my superior once told me that I didn't even know how to peel vegetables correctly. I felt super embarrassed, and they moved me to the service area. At that time, I felt like I had failed, but now it's something I laugh about. It's a funny memory that we like to joke about when we talk about my early career struggles. Whenever I face challenges, I turn to my grandmother. She has been my rock through life's ups and downs. Grandma always listens patiently, waits for me to finish speaking, and then looks at me with that tender look she has. Betty, I know you have big dreams and hopes, but life isn't a straight path. Sometimes there are twists and turns, and those experiences help you grow. Take your time and stay strong. Her words are like a warm hug, always making me feel better whenever I'm going through a tough time. I always thank her for being there for me. She reminds me that no matter how small the steps I take, as long as I keep moving forward, I will always be progressing. My grandmother's wisdom has taught me to face life with courage and patience. I am eternally grateful for her guidance. Now I am determined to make sure my grandmother is surrounded by love and peace. I will always be by her side, no matter the challenges that come our way. My grandmother always guided me with her support and words of encouragement. After losing my parents at a young age, she became my greatest comfort and the most important person in my life. She was my rock during difficult times, always pushing me to believe in myself, even when I doubted my abilities. In the midst of all this, I met my husband, Scott. Back then, I was working part-time at a hotel while trying to find my way in life. He was a chef at the same hotel, someone who had spent years perfecting the art of cooking. One day, learning of my interest in cooking, he approached me and said, "I'm still learning too, but if you're interested, I can teach you what I know." I was thrilled by his proposal and immediately accepted. From that day on, we started learning together. We began with the basics of cooking at each other's homes when the hotel kitchen was too busy. Those home sessions became our own little cooking classes, where we experimented, learned, and laughed while spending time together. While stirring pots and chopping vegetables side by side, our relationship grew stronger. It wasn't long before we started dating seriously, and after a few years, we decided to get married. After we got married, Scott continued working as a chef at the hotel, following his passion for creating incredible food. Meanwhile, I joined a startup company that manages several restaurants. My goal was to learn how to manage a business in practice. Beyond what I had studied in college, the reality of running a business was much harder than the theories I had learned. But I didn't give up. Over time, I got better, gaining confidence and developing skills along the way. Finally, with the support of my company, Scott and I had the opportunity to run our own restaurant, an exclusive place focused on traditional cuisine. I became the manager in charge of overseeing daily operations, while Scott, after completing advanced training, took charge of the kitchen. I was excited about the new challenge and accepted the role eagerly. Together, We put our hearts into building and growing the restaurant. However, focusing so much on work made me spend less time with my dear grandmother. She had moved in with my brother, Jerry. Jerry is a man dedicated to his office work, but his personality can be a bit difficult at times. When I shared the exciting news that I had become a manager, thanks to my company's program, his reaction took me by surprise. "Seriously? Are you going to take such a big risk?" he asked with a skeptical look. "Wouldn't it be safer to stay in a stable job? Besides, managers hired in programs like that don't earn less money." His words hurt me, but deep down, I knew this was the right path for me. Grandma had always told me to follow my dreams, even if the road wasn't easy. Her wisdom kept me steady, reminding me to be strong and trust my decisions. I tried to respond to my brother's harsh words, but he wouldn't back down. "Betty, listen to me," he said firmly. "Stability is the most important thing. Why do you always insist on doing what you want? It's not just about you, your husband is the same. Do you even understand how difficult it is to run a business? What are you going to do if you fail?" His words took me by surprise. Yes, I knew that running a business wasn't easy, but I also knew that we had the company's support. It didn't depend entirely on us. Before I could say anything, my sister-in-law, Anna, chimed in with a satisfied smile. "You two are very daring," she said. "But let me tell you something, if things don't go well, don't expect to come running to us for help." Her comment stung, but it also made me make a firm decision. I silently promised myself that whatever happened, I would never rely on them for anything. My dear grandmother, who had always been my greatest comfort, somehow ended up with a mean sister-in-law in her life. It all started when my brother and Anna moved into Grandma's house without telling anyone. I found out during one of my visits. I rang the doorbell, and to my surprise, it was Anna who opened the door. "Oh, Betty, what are you doing here?" she asked with a tone that confused me. "Anna, why are you at Grandma's house?" I asked, equally surprised. Anna took a deep breath and smiled in a way that felt forced. "Well," she said, "I'll tell you a little secret. I've been taking care of Grandma lately, and I wanted to spend more time with her. So we decided to move in." She seemed proud of herself, but I was in shock. I realized that with the new restaurant and everything else going on in my life, I had been too busy to notice this big change. Work had kept me away from Grandma, and I felt a pang of guilt for not being there for her as much as I wanted. Trying to be polite, I told Anna, "It's good to know that Grandma has someone close by to take care of her." Although I said those words with courtesy, a deep sadness filled my heart. I missed spending time with my grandmother. Every time I went to visit her after that, Anna would greet me with sarcastic comments. "Oh, Betty, here again," she'd say with a fake smile. "Don't you think Grandma is too busy to receive visitors right now?" "But of course, this is Grandma's house," Anna would say with a mocking smile. I would smile and calmly reply that I just wanted to chat with Grandma for a while since I was visiting. Visiting Grandma every weekend had always been my greatest joy. She welcomed me with warmth and love. But lately, I noticed her quieter and with less energy. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, but deep down, I worried something wasn't right. One day, my fears came true. Everything changed suddenly. I went to visit Grandma at her house. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I felt uneasy. I carefully opened the door and called out, "Grandma," but I heard nothing. When I went in, I saw her lying on the floor near the entrance. She had fainted. My heart raced, and I ran to her side. "Grandma, are you okay?" I yelled, my voice trembling. I knew I had to act fast. I took out my phone and immediately called an ambulance. While we waited, I took her hand and tried to keep her awake. "Hang in there, Grandma. Help is on the way," I whispered, trying to stay calm. The ambulance arrived quickly, and the paramedics began to attend to her. I stayed with her the entire time at the hospital, never leaving her side for a moment. Time seemed to slow down there. Before I knew it, night had fallen. I sat in the waiting room, feeling scared and alone. After what seemed like hours, the doctor came out to talk to me. He had a serious expression on his face. "Are you Betty?" he asked softly. I nodded as my heart pounded. The doctor took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, But your grandmother doesn't have much time. His words hit me like a bucket of cold water. I felt tears fill my eyes. What do you mean? I asked, barely able to speak. The doctor explained that Grandma had been very ill for a while. Her condition is serious. And there's nothing more we can do here at the hospital, he said. Perhaps it's best that she spends the time she has left at home, where she can be comfortable. I was in shock. I had no idea Grandma was so ill. Why didn't she tell me? I thought to myself. Just then, a nurse approached and told me that Grandma was awake and wanted to see me. I wiped away my tears and ran to her room. When I entered, Grandma was lying in bed, looking tired but at peace. She gave me a weak little smile. Betty, dear, I'm sorry for scaring you, she said softly. I approached and took her hand. Grandma, why didn't you tell me you were sick? I asked, trying not to cry. She looked at me with eyes full of love. I didn't want to worry you, dear. You've been so busy with your life and your work, she replied. I felt a lump in my throat. But Grandma, you should have told me. I want to be here for you, I said. At that moment, I realized how strong and caring Grandma was. Even though she was so ill, she was still thinking of others. I decided I wanted to make the most of the time we had left together. Grandma, maybe we should let everyone know about your illness, I suggested gently. She seemed a little surprised but then slowly nodded. If you think it's best, she said calmly. I hoped that by telling my brother and his wife, Anna, they would also come and spend time with Grandma. A few days later, Grandma was allowed to go home. Not because she was better, but because the doctors couldn't do anything more. They thought she would be more comfortable at home. When we arrived, we found my brother and Anna relaxing in the living room. They looked happy and carefree. Anna looked up and smiled enthusiastically. Oh, there you are. Where have you been? It's been so relaxing here while Grandma was away, she said brazenly. Yeah, it's been nice to have some peace and quiet without Grandma around, said my brother, laughing. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could they be so indifferent? Didn't they know how sick Grandma was? I felt anger growing inside me, but I took a deep breath and tried to remain calm. Grandma is very sick, I said firmly. She doesn't have much time left. Anna's smile faded slightly, but she simply shrugged. Well, that's a shame, she said, as if it were something unimportant. My brother said nothing. At that moment, I realized that they didn't care at all. I decided that I would take care of Grandma myself. Come on, Grandma, let's get you settled, I said softly, leading her to her room. She nodded, and I helped her up the stairs. For the next few days, I spent all the time with her that I could. We talked about happy memories, looked at old photos, and I cooked her favorite meals. She seemed content, and I was happy to see her smile. It made me feel at peace. Meanwhile, my brother and Anna stayed away, not offering to help or spend time with Grandma. It hurt me to see how little they cared, but I focused on making Grandma's days full of love and comfort. One night, as we were sitting together, Grandma took my hand. Thank you for being here with me, Betty, she said softly. You've always been such a loving granddaughter. I smiled at her. I love you, Grandma, I replied. I'm grateful for all the love and wisdom you've given me. She looked into my eyes and said, remember always to be kind and care for others, even when it's difficult. That's what truly matters in life. I nodded and took her words to heart. Even in her final days, she was still teaching me valuable lessons. Sadly, not long after, my grandmother passed away peacefully in her sleep. It broke my heart, but I was comforted knowing that I had been there for her. She had made her last days full of love and care. At the funeral, my brother and Anna showed up, but they seemed distant. I realized that some people may never change, but I knew I had done the right thing for Grandma. She had been there for me my whole life, and I'm glad I could be there for her when she needed me most. From that day on, I promised myself to live by Grandma's words. I would be kind, caring, and always make time for the people I love. Life is short, and it's important to cherish every moment. I was taken aback by what my brother and Anna said. It was clear that Grandma was very ill, and their insensitive words hurt me deeply. I tried to keep my emotions in check. Stop joking, I said firmly. Grandma's condition is very serious. The hospital can't do anything more for her. My brother looked at me in disbelief. You're kidding. Right? He asked. As if he couldn't believe what I was saying. Anna, on the other hand, just shrugged and dismissed my words as if they didn't matter. Taking a deep breath, I explained again that it was true. If you don't believe me, you can ask the doctor or Grandma. Grandma, who had been sitting quietly, finally spoke in a weak voice. It's true. I don't have much time left, she said softly. There's not much anyone can do now. Anna's eyes widened in surprise, and she seemed to panic. Wait a minute, she said quickly. I didn't sign up to be a caregiver. I only live here to save on rent. I can't take on such a big responsibility. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her selfishness left me speechless. I looked at Grandma, who seemed deeply hurt. Her eyes filled with sadness. And she whispered to herself, so now I'm just a burden. Hearing those words broke my heart. It was clear that Anna and my brother only cared about their own comfort, not Grandma's feelings. I took Grandma's hand and squeezed it gently. It's okay, Grandma, I said softly. I'm here for you. This is your house. And your well-being comes first. I turned to Anna and said firmly, if you're not willing to help, please don't make things more difficult. Grandma deserves respect and care. But Anna didn't seem to care. She crossed her arms and replied, I'm sorry, Betty. Although it was clear she wasn't truly sorry, her words sounded empty, and her face showed no remorse. Grandma wiped her tears and looked at me with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry for all of this, she said, her voice trembling. I felt an overwhelming need to protect her. She didn't deserve to be treated this way, especially in her condition. Anna, growing increasingly annoyed, snapped. Can you honestly go? You're a distraction. Don't come asking for help later because I won't be there to help. Just thinking about Grandma is exhausting. My brother chimed in, adding to the hurt. Seriously, don't try to shift this responsibility onto us. We didn't ask for this, he said, looking coldly at Grandma with irritation. Their words made it clear that they wanted to get rid of Grandma because she was a nuisance to them. Their attitude filled me with sadness and anger. How could they be so heartless? Grandma's voice trembled when she finally said, we won't depend on either of you anymore. If something happens, don't expect us to come around. Our family is tied here. Her eyes were filled with tears, but her voice had a quiet strength. At that moment, I knew I would do everything in my power to protect and care for Grandma. Even if my brother and Anna turned their backs on us, I would never abandon her. She had always been there for me. And now it was my turn to be there for her. I won't come back to this house again. Goodbye, I said firmly as I turned to leave. My brother smirked, crossing his arms. Great. Even if Betty ends up in trouble somewhere, it's not our problem, he said coldly. Anna waved her hand dismissively and added, good luck with Grandma. She's all yours now. Her tone was indifferent, as if she didn't care. Without looking back, Grandma and I walked out of the house. I decided at that moment that I would leave and bring her to live with me. We got into a taxi. As we approached my house, Grandma's eyes widened in surprise. Oh my, what a magnificent house, she exclaimed, clearly impressed. Our house was, in fact, much larger and more modern than the small, old-fashioned house where she had been living. It was a testament to the hard work Scott and I had put into our careers. The company we worked for was unique. In addition to our regular salaries, we earned bonuses based on the restaurant's revenue. This system motivated employees and gave us a stable and comfortable lifestyle. As I helped Grandma out of the taxi, the front door of our house opened, and Scott greeted us with his usual warm smile. Welcome home. I've been waiting for you, he said cheerfully. I had texted him earlier to let him know that Grandma was coming to live with us, and he had prepared tea and snacks for her arrival. Grandma's face lit up as she got up when she saw Scott. It's so nice to see you again, Scott, she said warmly. He welcomed her into the house, and I led her to the living room. We sat down, and I served her the comforting tea Scott had prepared. Grandma sipped it slowly and looked visibly relaxed for the first time in a long time. This place feels like somewhere I can truly get comfortable, she said with a deep sigh. In the other house, I always felt like I was in the way. Her words were filled with sadness, and I could sense the pain she had endured from Anna and my brother's cold treatment. Later, As we were unpacking Grandma's belongings, I discovered something shocking. Anna had been secretly taking money from Grandma's pension without permission. Anna could really do something like this, I murmured. With hers, she said with determination. I nodded my head in agreement. You are right. Let's take action. A few days later, my phone vibrated with several calls from my brother. After ignoring a few, I finally answered. On the other end, Anna's angry voice exploded. What did you do? Grandma's house is being taken from us. Feigning innocence, I calmly replied. I don't know what you're talking about. Anna's frustration was obvious. Why would they suddenly kick us out? You and Scott planned this, didn't you? I couldn't help but smile to myself. No, we did not do any of what you said. Leaving her gasping at her own guilt. Grandma was finally safe. And that was all that mattered. I spoke calmly with Anna, trying to keep things simple. Grandma decided to sell the house because it was always in her name. We're as surprised as you are. But she wanted a fresh start. The sale is already completed. And there's a new owner now. If you stay there any longer, it could cause problems. Anna's voice was a mix of shock and frustration. Do you think Grandma really understands what's going on? You offered her something, didn't you? It was a pretty sweet deal to convince her. No, we didn't do any of that, I said firmly. Grandma just wanted to move on. Scott helped her contact a real estate agent. And she made the decision herself that she did not want to deal with you or Jerry. As I spoke, I felt a sense of relief. It was time for Grandma to find peace. And for us to leave the past behind. This is a chance for all of us to start over. It's time to build our lives separately, I added, keeping my tone positive. Ignoring Anna's growing frustration, I focused on the bigger picture. Where are we supposed to live now that our old apartment is gone? Anna let out a sigh in irritation because of what I had told her about Grandma. Anna had a habit of spending money recklessly. She loved to go shopping, show off expensive designer bags, and visit beauty spas almost every week. My brother, on the other hand, didn't earn much and had accumulated debt. Their financial situation must have been quite difficult. That's probably why they moved into Grandma's house to save money. Despite their difficulties, my brother seemed completely smitten with Anna's appearance and probably indulged all her whims. I wasn't particularly concerned about their living situation, so I decided to be cheerful. Why not stay at a motel for a while? I suggested playfully. Oh wait. That might be difficult if you're short on cash. Anna paused, clearly offended. Why are you talking about our finances? She asked sharply. I didn't get a response from my brother, but I knew my words had struck a nerve. At that moment, Grandma took the phone with a warm smile and said, Actually, I told Betty everything. And by the way, Betty's house is wonderful. It's big, modern, and very comfortable. It's nothing like what I was used to. Her tone was gentle, but with a hint of pride. When my brother came back on the phone, he sounded curious. Wait, why are you doing so well? I thought you guys were struggling financially. It might surprise you, I replied with a chuckle. But Scott and I earn more than you think. On top of our regular salaries, we receive substantial bonuses. We probably earn about double what you make in a month. We work hard and have built a comfortable life for ourselves. He was silent for a moment, clearly taken aback. Seriously, he asked. Yes, I confirmed. You always said that temporary employment is the safest route. But maybe you now know to broaden your thinking. We've done pretty well with our choices, don't you think? I added with a hint of pride. For once, he had no response. And I felt a small victory knowing we were finally moving forward. I told them clearly that they needed to figure things out on their own without relying on us. Then, to my surprise, Anna spoke in a sweet tone and made a request. Hey, Betty, can we visit your house? Just my brother and me, even if it's just for a little while. I was surprised by her audacity. No, I said firmly. I already told you. We're done. You need to handle things on your own. After that, they kept calling several times. But I didn't answer. I had nothing more to say to them. And I decided to move on with my life. They were no longer a part of it. A short while later, I received shocking news. My brother and Anna had been arrested for shoplifting at a small store. When the police contacted me, I learned about Anna's enormous debts. which were far more than my brother's salary could cover. She had even been secretly taking money from Grandma's pension. Debt collectors had gone to my house and my brother's workplace, forcing him to leave his job. Things had gone downhill quickly for them. They had become so desperate that they were stealing donuts and sandwiches just to eat. The police told me that during their arrest, both my brother and Anna had asked them to contact me. My brother had said that he knew they had made mistakes, but to please help them. And Anna, in tears, had begged me to forget what they had done in the past, to just help them this one time. Even after hearing their pleas, I couldn't forgive them. Their reckless spending and the way they treated Grandma had led to this mess. And they were now facing the consequences. It wasn't my responsibility to fix it for them. It's been months since then, and my feelings haven't changed. I don't dwell on them anymore. Instead, I focus on Grandma, who is still alive and enjoying life. Seeing her happy has given me so much comfort that I've even taken some time off work to spend more moments with her. I'm thankful that my workplace provides support during times like these. Even though Grandma sometimes feels unwell, we find joy in the little things we love, like the garden and talking about the flowers we see. These moments are so precious to me. One day, I asked her, "Grandma, your birthday is coming up. Is there anything special you'd like to eat?" With a warm smile, she replied, "I would love a sandwich made by you." Her simple request touched my heart. I know my cooking isn't very good, but it's her way of showing love. There are still so many things I want to do with her. Places to visit, foods to try, and stories to share. I cherish every moment we spend together and do everything I can to make her smile while she feels well. I want to give her all the love and happiness she deserves.